Please explain.
As non-members of the ICC, and as a state, the ICC has no jurisdiction over us as a country. But over the individuals who may have committed crimes that violate international humanitarian law, that is a universal value being held by the whole world today. That people cannot cross borders and hide behind boundaries so that they can run away from the law. International humanitarian law is something adopted. The principles are adopted by more than 150 countries throughout the world, Your Honor.
Are you of the position, therefore, that international humanitarian law, as you said, is customary law? Is that the consideration?
It is already customary law now. As we speak, it has become customary law throughout the world.
Thank you. So, therefore, we are not members of the ICC.
We are not members of the ICC since President Duterte withdrew our membership in 2018, effective 2019.
Okay. That being the position of the DILG, I assume that Secretary Remulla in the DILG also maintains the same.
Yes, ma'am. I defer to the wisdom of the Department of Justice.
And the PNP, General Marbil, please.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. If that is therefore an unqualified yes, and you are in agreement with the President that the ICC has no jurisdiction whatsoever, what was the DOJ referring to as the ICC's jurisdiction in the Philippines being different from us being a member? What is the distinction, please?
Ma'am, the ICC tries people for individual crimes, not states. So the Philippines, as a state, cannot be called upon by the ICC to do something for them. But when the ICC is running after individuals who are Filipino citizens, then that obligation becomes another kind of obligation.
So that therefore the Senate ratification of the ICC at the time that it was ratified is of no weight. Regardless, you will fall under the jurisdiction of the ICC. Under
Well, for
the so-called
individuals-
international.
Yes, madam.
humanitarian- that is your belief, DOJ.
Yes, madam. When there are
Regardless of
individuals
being a party or
being
not
when
being a
there are
party?
individuals being asked by the ICC to explain, it is another matter. As a state is different from an individual. We all know that we have to.
I think that is
the
not the
individuals
question.
being charged by the ICC will have to face the ICC.
I'm perplexed. The DFA made it very clear that as we withdrew, we are no longer a state party to the treaty. And now you're saying that we can nevertheless fall under the ICC, under the generic rubric of international humanitarian law. So it doesn't matter whether you sign or do not sign, whether
Yes,
you
ma'am.
ratify
It
or
doesn't
do not
matter, ma'am.
ratify.
It doesn't
makes no
matter.
difference.
Does not make any difference anymore.
Are you certain?
I'm certain.
Okay, Attorney Saret, please, from DFA. Is that the position of the DFA?
Madam Chair, I concur with my USEC, the current acting SFA, that as far as we are concerned, we're no longer members of the ICC, ma'am.
And as non-members, can we possibly fall under the jurisdiction of the ICC under the rubric of international humanitarian law? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, I think, because we, under the,
What's the use of signing or ratifying a treaty if it bears no weight?
yes, I defer, ma'am, to Secretary Remulla.
May
on
I?
this one, ma'am.
I think it's your purview, your DFA.
Yes, ma'am. But yes, ma'am, technically we are no longer a member of the ICC, but we might be obligated under residual jurisdiction as what the Supreme Court in one case already mentioned, that we still have residual jurisdiction. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes,
Madam Chair, if I may.
I'm a little bit perplexed given that you are part of the executive. The president has said, as he said for the 100th time, that we are not under the ICC. Why is the SOJ now saying that we are nevertheless, somehow, in some miraculous way, under the rubric of the international humanitarian law, still under its jurisdiction?
Your Honor, it is not the Philippines that is under the jurisdiction. It is the individuals who are charged by the ICC, which is under the jurisdiction. There is a distinction, ma'am.
Please explain.
As non-members of the ICC, and as a state, the ICC has no jurisdiction over us as a country. But over the individuals who may have committed crimes that violate international humanitarian law, that is a universal value being held by the whole world today. That people cannot cross borders and hide behind boundaries so that they can run away from the law. International humanitarian law is something adopted. The principles are adopted by more than 150 countries throughout the world, Your Honor.
Are you of the position, therefore, that international humanitarian law, as you said, is customary law? Is that the consideration?
It is already customary law now. As we speak, it has become customary law throughout the world.
Are you aware that procedural and admin matters do not form part of customary law? Surely the Secretary is well aware that procedural and administrative matters will still have to comply with the laws of the land.
Of course, Madam, this goes without saying.
Okay, thank you. Senator Jinggoy, I think you wanted to interject at this juncture. We recognize the Senator.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you very much. The DFA, the DOJ, the DILG, and the PNP has already admitted that we are not members of the Philippines is not a member of the ICC. Therefore, why did we surrender a Filipino citizen before the ICC? Anyone can answer, Madam Chair.
We surrendered an individual to the ICC who was a subject of a warrant of arrest. That's what we did.
I did not hear you again.
Mr. Senator, we surrendered an individual to the ICC. We did not surrender as a country, but he was surrendered due to a warrant of arrest issued by the ICC through the Interpol.
Senator Jinggoy, any follow-up questions, please? Thank you. If that's the case, while we've attempted to retrieve Senator Jinggoy, let me just pursue the question of the international humanitarian law being customary law. Since procedural and administrative matters do not fall under customary law, ICC processes, therefore, are not part and parcel.
Madam Chair, the distinction of the ICC process of issuing a warrant of arrest is something accepted through a treaty, the International Police Organization.
You have just contradicted yourself, sir. You said it was customary, and now you're saying it's by treaty.
We can be very technical about it, ma'am.
Sorry.
But we can be very technical about it if you wish to be. But the fact is, it is our accession to the Interpol which made all of this possible.
We will go to the Interpol later. Let us discuss the ICC at this juncture. So while I will go with you for the sake of argument that the IHL, or International Humanitarian Law, has now become accepted as part of international customary law, I am unable to accept that ICC processes and administrative procedures as well are now part of customary law. I don't think so.
The processes are not part of customary law. We have our own administrative processes. If you ask me about this, Madam, we can say that the IHL is the domestic law that we followed in recognizing the warrant of arrest issued against Rodrigo Roa Duterte.
Which domestic law and process did
Republic Act 9851, Your Honor.
as mentioned previously.
Yes, as mentioned previously, and within the provisions allows us two options, either extradition or surrender. We chose the executive mode, which is surrender.
We will go to that later, but at this juncture, therefore, I get an acceptance from the Secretary that, in fact, the processes that should have prevailed should have been those stipulated under RA 9851 or our own local law.
We follow the process, ma'am.
Thank you. So that's correct. On the same day,
When does international humanitarian law apply? International humanitarian law applies only to armed conflict. It does not cover internal tensions or disturbances such as isolated acts of violence. The law applies only once a conflict has begun, and then equally to all sides regardless of who started the fighting. International humanitarian law distinguishes between international and non-international armed conflict. International armed conflicts are those in which at least two states are involved. They are subject to a wide range of rules, including those set out in the 4 Geneva Conventions and Additional Protocol I. Non-international armed conflicts are those restricted to the territory of a single state, involving either regular armed forces fighting groups of armed dissidents, or armed groups fighting each other. A more limited range of rules apply to internal armed conflicts and are laid down in Article 3 common to the 4 Geneva Conventions as well as in Additional Protocol 2. Customary international humanitarian law. Customary international humanitarian law is a set of unwritten rules derived from a general, or common, practice which is acknowledged as law. It's the basic standard of conduct in armed conflict accepted by the world community. Customary international humanitarian law is applicable universally, independently of the application of treaty law, and is based on extensive and virtually uniform state practice regarded as law. Republic Act No. 9851. Section 2. Declaration of Principles and State Policies. C. It shall be the responsibility of the state and all other sectors concerned to resolve armed conflict in order to promote the goal of children as zones of peace. Republic Act No. 9851. Section 2. Declaration of Principles and State Policies. D. The state adopts the generally accepted principles of international law, including the Hague Conventions of 1907, the Geneva Conventions on the Protection of Victims of War and international humanitarian law, as part of the law of our nation.
that as we withdrew, we are no longer a state party to the treaty, and now you're saying that we can nevertheless fall under the ICC, under the generic rubric of international humanitarian law. So it doesn't matter whether you sign or do not sign, whether
Yes,
you
ma'am.
ratify
It
or
doesn't
do
matter,
not
ma'am.
ratify.
It
It
doesn't
makes no
matter.
difference.
Does not make any difference anymore.
Are you certain?
I'm certain.